Look at him. Look at. Do you guys? I don't know if you guys can see. Like his fluff is, his whole side is covered in catnip right now. Catnip and dust. He loves it. I knew he would. I knew he would. Stinky's very apprehensive towards anything new. But the moment that I like, you know, I have to like actually lock in with him to get him to like, you know, accept something new. Oh, and now he's licking butt. Oh no, he's just like, oh. Oh. Oh, he's going to town on them toes. That's so cute. That's so cute. Also, where is chat? Oh, there's chat. My chat's not working on that scene. Oh my goodness. So precious. Yeah, I'm just gonna make chat small. Look at him. Wait, that's where I'm from. Oh, we just moved away from New York. Very much near Long Island City. I'm gonna cry. Let me see if I can better the color grading on him for you. Let's do this and this and this. Oh, can y'all see him a little better now? Yeah, if he's properly exposed, then nothing else in the shot is properly exposed. Now you guys can see him, but nothing else in the shot. Oh my goodness. He's so handsome. Slinky walked up under my porch, just walked into my front door, and then Bean got into a fight outside my house and we took him to the vet. Bean's left eye is now wider than his right because of that fight. Oh my god. Yeah, I think he's the inverse of me lighting-wise. I think he's enjoying this. Also, my eyes are closed. Yeah, y'all didn't need to see anything else anyways. Honestly, I should just, like, perish, I think. This is the only content y'all care about. And I'm back. Hi, Javon, what's up? Welcome back. It's Stinky! He's here! It's not a there's only so much color grading you can do for a high dynamic range on a webcam. Who is Stinky? This fucking guy. This guy right here. That's Stinky. You're such a stink. You're such a little stink. Why are you talking again? Oh my god. Chat, 10 gifted, and I go silent for the next 10 minutes. What? Hey, where is your face going? That's not where your face belongs. You're telling me you're not filming with a professional film camera? What, for what now? 10 subs? I don't talk for 10 minutes. I'd have to put text on the screen to say that I'm not jogging. Let's see, what? And it'll be just Stinky time. Imagine. Where is he going? Where are you going, Mr. Butt? Mr. Stinky Butt. 20 minutes, deal or no deal? That's 20, yeah, it's 1 sub per minute of no Mika talk time. We'll say 1 sub per minute. I'll add to the deal. I'll give you 20k and a really expensive camera of your choice if you play League twice. Oh my god. I mean, I need to get, I would need to get a nicer camera to be able to like properly do that at some point. What's the forfeit if she apps too early? I don't know. Plus 1 minute. Oh.
You just resubscribed at tier 1 for 15 months. Crosterman just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Andromon 616 just gifted 10 tier 1 subs. Belodal just resubscribed at tier 1 for 21 months. Andromon 616 just gifted 2 tier 1 subs. Andromon 616 just gifted 2 tier 1 subs. Andromon 616 just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Andromon 616 just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Andromon 616 just gifted 2 tier 1 subs. Andromon 616 just gifted 10 tier 1 subs. Andromon 616 just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. R1 Honor just resubscribed at tier 3 for 38 months. Andromon 616 just gifted 2 tier 1 subs. Elusive Higgs Boson just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Andromon 616 just gifted 2 tier 1 subs. Crosterman just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Legendary Carpet just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Throne from Austin just resubscribed at tier 1 for 35 months.
Chat has spoken. You coming in? No? Okay. Where'd your monitor go? Why'd you do that? Why'd you knock your monitor over? guys. There we go. Okay. So chat. Chat, can we have a drink? As long as it's silent. Okay. Well, chat. Mika's still chatting. It's so bright in here. So, Mika, you've been watching the Clone Wars recently, and I think now that you can't say anything, it's time for you to learn how we got to this point in the timeline. So, Phantom Menace, Episode 1 of Star Wars, starts off with trade embargoes, also like tariffs. People in 1999 had a lot of complaints about that, being like, oh, why is this movie about wars centered around some bullshit related to tariffs and stuff like that? And now, 25 years later, crazy how that works. And so, yeah, so there are trade blockades around Naboo being enforced by the Trade Federation, and there's this big struggle for power on Naboo, which is Padme's planet. It's the one that looks very Italian countryside. That's where they do most of their shooting for that planet. And so that's where that starts. And the Republic has dispatched a couple Jedi to kind of delegate in this situation. And those two Jedi are Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And at this point in time, Qui-Gon Jinn is Obi-Wan's master, and Obi-Wan is still a Padawan. He's still a younger guy at this time. We are talking about like 30-something years before the original movies. And I am going to get to Jar Jar also, chat. This is an open discussion for everybody else, not Mika. Mika can't have input. You guys can have input. This is an open discussion for you guys as well. So, let's see. So, the Jedi show up, and the Trade Federation are just expecting a couple just random bureaucrats or something when they find out that the Republic is sending a couple people to delegate this situation. And they once they find out that the two people that were getting sent by the Republic to mediate the situation were Jedi, they kind of freak out. They're like, oh, these aren't just two random guys. These are very powerful beings who are coming in to effectively put a stop to what we are trying to do and accomplish our goals. And yeah, so they start to freak out. They reach out to somebody that they are working with, a mysterious dark figure, and he's like, okay, you guys have to kill these guys. They're going to be a problem for us. So they basically like lock them in a room and try to like fill it with poison gas. But they get out of it. There's a little standoff between them and some droidicas. They use force speed to get out of there, which is crazy because they force speed out of there, and then that power is never brought up again in any other prequel stuff. Which it seems like it'd be a pretty useful power to have, but they use it once and then forget that it's a thing that they wrote into the movie exists. And so they then sneak out through, I think, some vents or something, and then they manage to get off of the separatist ship, or I guess not separatist at the time, this is still just a Trade Federation ship, and then they manage to sneak off on a ship and go land on Naboo, and this is at the same time as, so obviously this escalation is now happening with the Jedi showing up, so the command for Trade Federation is also to start landing their troops on Naboo and go ahead and bring this from just a trade blockade to a full-on invasion of the planet. So they send their droidic army down to the planet and start dispatching droids to go and do a forced invasion and take over Naboo. And so Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi escape, and they end up on the planet's surface around where the troops are landing, and this is where we get introduced to the possibly if not the worst character to be written into a major Star Wars movie, Jar Jar Binks. And so this motherfucker is just the... Mika, you're not allowed to have opinions. You can only listen. Put that fucking whiteboard away. Chat, if you have opinions on Jar Jar, you can say them. Mika can't, so zip it. Stop writing. Please tell me you were going to explain the entire prequel trilogy like this. I'm allowed to do this until the timer hits 0. Every sub or gifted sub is going to add a minute to that timer. So that's how this is going to work. So I think it was Qui-Gon Jinn runs into Jar Jar, and he's already, from the first moment he's on screen, just bumbling around like a complete fucking idiot, and Qui-Gon Jinn just saves him, and then he's doing his dumb bullshit. He's like, oh, I owe you my life now. I'm just gonna follow you around for the rest of this movie and ruin the vibes for everybody. And Qui-Gon is just kind of clearly doesn't want this. Every other character in the movie, once they meet Jar Jar, doesn't fuck with him. Understandably, this guy is so fucking annoying. And so then we get to they actually make it from whatever wooded area they were in. They make it back to the main city on Naboo, and that's where. But by that point, the droid army has already invaded, and I think so then Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon do a little rescue mission, get Padme Amidala out of there, and so along with like a few of her trusted like advisors and her people, and they get the fuck out of Naboo, and then but in the escape, the Trade Federation blockade tries to shoot them down, and they manage to escape, but they have damaged their hyperdrive, which means they cannot get back to Coruscant, which means they need to land on some nearby planet where they can possibly fix the ship. That planet, surprise, surprise, turns out to be Tatooine. And so, under 10 minutes, oh no, in 10 minutes, Mika will be able to talk again. But for now, she can't protest to this. So, they make it back to, to Tatooine. They go into Mos Eisley, and they're trying to find someone who can fix the hyperdrive for them. And so they go into this shop, and they run into this guy, Watto, who runs this shop, and also his slave, Anakin Skywalker. And Anakin Skywalker at this point is like 9-10 years old, and he is like, this is the first time that we see him, and he doesn't actually have anything to do just at the beginning, but we are introduced to the character then. And then Qui-Gon tries to do Jedi mind tricks on Watto to convince him that like he can use Imperial credits to do the to buy the hyperdrive, and he's like, no, Jedi tricks don't work on me, only money, something like that. And so then Qui-Gon finds out that in Tatooine, the Tatooine people are big gamblers. They love to gamble. So then he's like, okay, bet. If you're not going to take my credits and my Jedi mind tricks aren't going to work on you, how about we gamble over it? So, hear me out. Here's my proposal. We gamble that we put your 9-year-old slave into this extremely dangerous pod race that very few people survive. Let's gamble that this 9-year-old kid in this life or death scenario is going to win the race, and if so, I get to take him, and I get the hyperdrive for my ship. If we lose, you get to keep my ship. And so Watto's like, I love to gamble. Let's fucking do it. Because this is a 9-year-old kid. I have no faith he's going to win this thing. He's never even been able to get off the starting line of his race, let alone fucking win one. So he thinks it's a sure thing for him. But, as we all know, one of the peak moments of this very mixed bag movie is the pod race scene, which is epic. And, of course, in the end, our boy Anakin Skywalker ends up winning it. And so Watto is now a fucking sore loser. He's like, oh, you must have cheated me out of this somehow. But he still holds up his end of the deal, and they get to take Anakin with them along with the hyperdrive. And so then they finally make it off of Tatooine. But before they do, as they are just taking off, Darth Maul has been on the planet tracking them, trying to figure out what's going on. Darth Maul was dispatched by Darth Sidious, who was the shadowy figure that was working with the Trade Federation back on Naboo. And so Darth Maul, not knowing anything about Anakin Skywalker, is driving his speeder and is like fully, if Qui-Gon doesn't tell Anakin to duck, Darth Maul's just going to run this 9-year-old kid over, just because reason. Like, he has no reason to know that this kid is going to, in the future, become some important person. He's just a 9-year-old kid in the way that he's fully willing to run over. So him and Qui-Gon fight it out for a second, but they escape back to the ship, and they get off Tatooine, and no one dies yet. And then, so they do finally make it back to Coruscant, and at this point, Senator Palpatine is still just a regular senator, but he is also from Naboo, the same planet that Padme is from, and so they go back to discuss with their Senate representative Palpatine what they should do, and because at this point, Padme Amidala is the queen of Naboo, so she is like in charge of things on Naboo, where Palpatine is representing Naboo in the Senate. So they're discussing what they should do with all this stuff that is going on with the invasion of the Trade Federation. And at this point, the Senate is run by Chancellor Valorum, who is a very like wishy-washy, very corrupt chancellor who is very much just under control of all of the bureaucrats in the Senate. Yeah, the illusion of democracy. And because at this point, it's not just Chancellor Valorum. It's very clear that it's just kind of the Senate as a whole has very weak leadership, and they are all easily bought, and they are all under the influence of whoever. And oh my God, we've got another tier 1 that's going to add another minute to the timer.
Just gifted a tier 1 sub to Liz the Menace.
So at this point, they decide that the best course of action is to trigger a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum, which does go through, and then they're like, okay, so he's been removed as chancellor, so we are going to need to have an election to figure out who is going to replace him. And surprise, surprise, Senator Palpatine wins that vote and becomes the new chancellor of the Galactic Republic Senate. Not Imperial yet. Mika, you're 2 movies ahead of us here. Also, what happens? You're not allowed to comment on this stuff. You're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to have... Chat is the only one who's allowed to have opinions on this, not you. So, stop that. So, and then at this point in the movie is, so now that we have Palpatine in charge, Valorum's been removed, Palpatine then allows a bit more executive action so that they can do some immediate action to be able to resolve the situation on Naboo. They go back to Naboo, and they just need to get the Trade Federation troops out of there and stop the occupation of the city. So, Mika's this far in. I don't think she's about to down the whole bottle. Have you ever seen Mika chug something, let alone an alcohol? But yeah, so battle ensues on Naboo. Oh. I caught that the last second. That almost overflowed. But battle ensues on Naboo. You have an allied Naboo and Gungan army force. But the Gungans, who are the main infantry force on the ground fighting the ground troops, are losing their battle. They actually surrender, but up in the sky, you've got some Naboo N1 starfighters out there fighting and trying to get to the command ship. And but back in the hangar is they have Anakin, like, they tell Anakin to hide in one of the Naboo starfighter ships just to keep him safe. And Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are there, and then the gates open, and on the other side of the gates, Darth Maul, and he shows up, and Duel of the Fates starts playing, and so he brings out his lightsaber, turns on the lightsaber, but wait, there's a second side to his lightsaber. He's got a dual lightsaber. This is the first time we see someone in a Star Wars movie dual wielding. The crowd loses their minds, and that is and then that starts off one of the best lightsaber fights we have in Star Wars, the fight between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn on Naboo. But at the same time, while they're doing their fight, and the people from Naboo are engaging in their fight, Anakin just in the ship, and he's like, what if I start pressing buttons? And he starts the autopilot in the ship, and the ship goes and takes off. And he's like, oh, okay, well, Qui-Gon's only instruction to me was to stay in the ship. I'm not breaking any rules by doing this, so let's go get into this fight. So he figures out with R2, who's also in this starfighter, he figures out how to turn off the autopilot, and this little 9-10-year-old Anakin flies into the droid command ship, just starts shooting the main power source, and just blows up the main ship. And we're talking about a very similar situation to the Avengers movie, where it's like, oh, if you blow up the command ship, it deactivates all of their robot army. And so that's what happens. And so then they win the battle because the droids all get deactivated. And so conflict resolved on Naboo, but now we're left in a situation where we now have Senator Palpatine, now Chancellor Palpatine, and we're already, because of this conflict, giving him more executive powers in the Senate. And of course, then you have this issue with the Trade Federation, and their allies are now starting to become more and more fed up with the Senate. And at this point in time, most civilized parts of the galaxy are all united under this Senate. But now, because of these events and the other things that are going on in the universe, them and many others are looking to break away from the Senate. And that's where we begin the separatist movement, which is going to become a much more important thing in Attack of the Clones, Episode 2, but also, more importantly, that's in the Clone Wars. That's the conflict is between the Republic and the Separatists who are trying to break away from the Republic. We've only got 1 minute left after this. Mika is allowed to talk and have an opinion again. But that's Episode 1, and yeah, so we're left in this place where things seem to be going well. They're at the end of the Phantom Menace, everybody's celebrating. They're like, woo, we have peace. But at the same time, there is this menacing aura in the background of Palpatine. And would you look at that, we've got 5 more minutes on the clock. Mika continue to not be able to talk, which means we are going to get into Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And I know, me too. Attack of the Clones is probably, out of the main 6 Star Wars movies, the weakest of the 6. And we can, and oh my god, that's another 5 subs. We've now got under 10 minutes of the clock. We are going to get into Episode 2 for sure. And so The Phantom Menace is a very mixed bag of a movie, but they do have some great moments like the pod racing scene and the final battle between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And oh yeah, the part I forgot to mention, in the end of that battle, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi gets trapped in another room, and there's a bunch of ray shields blocking his way into the room where Darth Maul and Qui-Gon are fighting. And ultimately, because he can no longer help, Maul ends up overpowering Qui-Gon Jinn and putting his lightsaber through him, killing Qui-Gon Jinn. And then Obi-Wan is just kind of seething in the other room, watching his master get killed in front of him. But as soon as those doors open up, he runs in the room and just starts going beast mode, fucking taking it to Darth Maul. It's an epic fight, but Obi-Wan still gets knocked over into like this like pit, but he's holding onto the edge. Darth Maul's just up there, just waiting for him to make his move, figuring out what's going to happen. But Obi-Wan does this big force jump, jumps all the way over Maul, flips over him, and just slashes through his midsection. Darth Maul goes falling down the pit. Is he dead? It looks like it, but he's not. And that will come into play at a later date. Mika doesn't know about that yet, but it will. Darth Maul is not dead. And see, you actually do know about this because Darth Maul shows up in the Solo movie, which you have seen. So you know he is alive. That is the thing. You just don't see how we got to that point from the Phantom Menace yet, but you will very soon in the Clone Wars. I think that's the only other detail I really missed from the Phantom Menace that's important. But then Attack of the Clones, like I said, Phantom Menace, mixed bag, but it's really got its moments. Attack of the Clones is slightly worse for me, but it still has some cool moments. But Attack of the Clones starts off, I think we're now talking, so I think we're now about 10 years, we jumped 10 years forward from The Phantom Menace to Attack of the Clones. Anakin, no longer a 9-10-year-old, he's now like 19. Obi-Wan, now I think in his 30s. And we're at a point where there's, of course, the political conflicts from episode 1 have carried over through the past decade and are still ongoing at this point in time. As a result, the emergency powers that were granted, the executive powers that were being granted to Chancellor Palpatine in the first episode have continued. And actually, he was supposed to, so I think the Chancellor role, I think you're allowed 2 terms of like, I don't remember how many years it was, but by the time we get to episode 3, Palpatine has been in his seat as Chancellor for 5 years past what he was supposed to be allowed to have, but the granting more and more executive powers allowed him to stay in office longer and longer and longer, and but we get to the beginning of Attack of the Clones, and there are supposedly assassination attempts happening on Padme Amidala, and they show up to Coruscant, and one of Padme's general guys is like, oh, I guess I had nothing to worry about. There was no danger. Cliche timing, the fucking ship explodes right behind them, kills the woman who's disguised as Padme to protect her. And she's like, I'm sorry, I failed you, except you didn't fail her because that's exactly what your job was supposed to be. You're a body double so she doesn't get killed. So actually, you did not fail her. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You're just dead. But of course, this upsets Padme. They're on the Capitol now. They're consulting with Palpatine what they should be doing. And he's like, well, clearly if assassination attempts are happening, this is the reason that we should keep you on Coruscant here and give you more protection from the government. And so she wants to go back to Naboo and just kind of handle things on her own. Palpatine wants her to stay on Coruscant and whatever. But then it turns out the Jedi who are assigned to protect Padme are Obi-Wan and Anakin. And so one of the big things with the prequels is that, like, Qui-Gon Jinn was supposed to be the guy that trains Anakin. And Anakin was already being deemed as too old to be trained by the Jedi Council because he's 9 years old, and usually Jedi are brought to begin their training a lot younger than that. But Qui-Gon was insistent that because Anakin is this prophesized chosen one, that he should still be trained regardless. But it was then, after Qui-Gon gets killed in that final battle, his final dying wish to Obi-Wan is that Obi-Wan trains Anakin. But the problem there is that Qui-Gon is a master. At that point in time, Obi-Wan was still a Padawan. They said that he was like ready for the trials to become a master, but that never happened. But then with the death of Qui-Gon, that and his final dying wish, that incentivizes them to promote Obi-Wan to a master early, so then he can take Anakin on as his Padawan learner. And that's a Community reference. But it becomes clear in these movies that although Obi-Wan is doing his best, he's only, I think, like 10 years older than Anakin, so he's not really in a position where he is properly ready to be not only a master but also training a young Padawans. Because he's like, in terms of age, he's more of like an older brother than like a father figure to this kid. So he's doing his best to train him over these last 10 years, but he's only been able to do so much. Anakin has very clearly become a pretty, like, rash, impulsive guy. He's very talented at what he does. He's very talented with the Force and with a lightsaber, but on the personal level, he's not been developed super well emotionally as a person. He's a 19-year-old kid. And so they get reintroduced to Padme, and this is the girl that Anakin developed a massive crush on when he first saw her when he was 9 years old, and he hasn't forgotten about that
just
since.
resubscribed the tier 1 for 13 months.
This order that makes you they make you swear off like attachments, like they're not supposed to be allowed to like have like families and like get married and have kids, anything like that. That's all supposed to be forbidden. But he's been obsessing over this girl since he was 9. Now gets reintroduced to her 10 years later. He's like now 19. She's like in her like mid-20s, and As soon as he sees her, he is down bad again. But of course, he is this Jedi who's been sworn off from attachment. So obviously, he's never been with a woman or flirted with a woman before. His riz is atrocious. And so he's trying, but it's not going very well, and it's just very awkward for everybody else. Because it's not just him and her one-on-one. It's like them and Obi-Wan and like 4 or 5 other people in the room, and everybody's just kind of standing there like, this is very awkward. But they are her assigned protectors. Obi-Wan's like, oh, we got to do this by the book. The Jedi Council said we're here to protect her, nothing more. Anakin's like, no, I think by protecting her, we also need to figure out who's trying to assassinate her and put a stop to that, so I want to investigate further. Obi-Wan's like, no, we just got to stay here and do the job we were assigned. But in the night, a little bit later, someone sends some little, like, worm-looking, like, assassin droids in to try to kill her in her sleep. They go into the room, rush in, find her just there, but with these things about to kill her, Anakin kills them with his lightsaber, gets him off, saves her in time. And the craziest part, though, they see the droid that let them in out the window, and you'd think Anakin being the impulsive one, would be the one that would like go try to do something, but in one of the wildest moments of the prequels, Obi-Wan just instantly, no hesitation, just goes, runs, jumps out the blue and out the window, grabs onto the droid, and is just like hanging onto this droid. And this is Coruscant; they're like hundreds of feet, if not thousands of feet in the air. He just jumps through the window, grabs onto this droid, and is just like hanging onto it for dear life as it drives away. Anakin goes, runs out, grabs a speeder, goes and tries to find them. But this is where the whole assassination plotline with Padme gets like very weird and like, because they do ultimately end up like reconnecting, tracking down the droid to a certain place. They're tracking down this assassin who sent it in the first place, and they finally find her. They injure her, get her down, and they're trying to ask her like, who sent you? But right as she's about to tell them, like a fucking dart goes into her neck and kills her. They look up and see a guy in what they don't know, but we know. Well, I guess they would know, but this point in the movies, they haven't really been developed yet, but they will be developed a lot more in the Clone Wars. This guy's wearing Mandalorian armor, and he goes and flies away because he's got a jetpack, because Mandalorians have jetpacks. And Mika is a literal captive audience. As long as this timer keeps going, Mika is not allowed to interfere in this in any way. So Obi-Wan and Anakin see this guy in Mandalorian armor go and fly away, and it's the whole assassin plotline. It's, if you really think about it, it really doesn't make much sense. It's just a very convoluted way to get Obi-Wan from point A to point B. But now we're at a point where so they're like, okay, so we're gonna send Obi-Wan to go try to figure out who this guy is that's been sending these guys to try to assassinate Padme. Anakin, you're gonna stay with Padme and be her protector. If you're going to go into the I mean, there isn't really any Mandalorian lore yet at this point in the timeline. So we have now for the majority of this whole middle section of Attack of the Clones, Anakin and Obi-Wan are now split up. So we have what is it? So Obi-Wan goes, and so he takes the poison dart that killed this assassin, takes it to this guy he knows at, for some reason, there is a 50s style diner in Coruscant in a galaxy far, far away, but for some reason, they're still a big fan of American 1950s nostalgia, so they have this 1950s American themed diner on Coruscant. He goes and meets with this guy that he knows there. He's like, hey, can you do me a favor and tell me where this poison dart comes from? He's like, oh, that's this really rare dart from this place. They only make it on this place called Camino. So Obi-Wan's like, bet. And he goes back to the Jedi Temple, goes through the Jedi archives in the library, and he's like, hey, my guy told me that this comes from a place called Camino, but I'm not seeing a planet called Camino anywhere in the Jedi archives. They're like, yeah, no, I'm looking too. This place doesn't exist. And he's like, well, that doesn't make sense. And they're like, nope, the Jedi archives are always 100% correct. There's never any inaccuracies there. There are, like, if the planet Camino is not there, it does not exist. So then Obi-Wan goes to talk with Yoda, who's teaching some little kids. And Yoda's like, hey, kids, does anybody have any ideas? And one of the little kids is like, maybe someone deleted it? I don't know. Maybe you should have thought harder. And so Yoda's like, yeah, see, you should listen to this 8-year-old who's totally going to live a long and happy life to adulthood.
Legendary Carpet just gifted 5 tier 1 subs.
So, because of that, then Obi-Wan digs a little bit deeper. He does end up, I don't remember exactly how, but he does end up finding Kamino, because he's like, okay, it should be right here, but there's no planet there, so I have to assume it's somewhere over there. He does end up finding the planet of Kamino, and he goes to the planet, and he meets up, and he goes to the entrance of this city, and so, of course, he's had no interaction with these people before. He's heard this. He's just heard of it, and now he's just trying to investigate this thing. But he shows up, and you've got the Kaminoans, who are the very long-necked alien people. And they're like, oh, Jedi Master, we've been expecting you. And internally, he's like, what? Why? What do you mean expecting me? I just found out this planet existed literally yesterday. I told no one I was coming here. Why are they expecting me? And then they're mentioning that, like, oh, your project is coming along really well. He's like, what project are they talking about? I have no idea what's going on. But he's like, I'm going to play along because what the fuck is going on here? And he goes in, he's talking with the Kaminoans, and they're like, here, you want me to grab that? But he's trying to play along as best he can, and they're explaining, and he's like talking about, and they're like, oh, do you know Sifo Dyas? And he's like, who? He's like, they're like, Sifo Dyas is the one who commissioned this big project, and he's like, Sifo Dyas has been dead for a decade. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, but they probably just assume that he's the one who's taking over this project with the death of Sifo Dyas. And then they're like, let's now show you this project we've been talking about. And they walk into another room to find the clone army, millions and millions of clones being manufactured for the past decade. Magnificent, aren't they? They had 200,000 units ready with 1 million more on the way. And now this is something that, like, so they say that there were 3 million units, unit clones for a galactic war. I feel like 3 million doesn't make sense. I feel like what makes more sense is if every unit was referring to like a unit, not meaning like one individual clone, but like some like categorization of a large number, like a unit, like meaning like maybe like 100 clones, which would make a lot more sense given the scale of this war that is being built up to. So basically, they but still that's hasn't happened. Yeah, exactly. They like. We've seen wars on Earth, and if we're talking about ground troops, there have been individual battles on Earth that have had hundreds of thousands, even millions of troops involved. That's not enough troops to sustain an entire galactic conflict of that scale. So I think when they say 200,000 units with 1 million more on the way, they are talking in much larger numbers, and a unit is not referring to one individual clone. So that makes sense to me, but I digress. So anyways, so Obi-Wan's seeing this and is like, so these people who are from this planet that doesn't exist from the Jedi Archives mysteriously, when the Jedi Archives are supposed to be like 100% correct, have been working on a massive army for the Jedi and the Republic for the last decade, and no one's known anything about this. This is all extremely fishy, and he's like, so who's the guy who's providing the DNA for all these clones? And she's like, oh, I'll bring you to meet him. And guess who it is? It's that guy with the Mandalorian armor that he saw back on Coruscant that killed the assassin. He's like, oh shit, this is my guy. And so he gets introduced to him, and they're both talking to each other like, you know, they both suspect something, but they don't know exactly what's going on here. And so they're like, holy shit, what is this guy doing here? Both of them don't know what to make of the other guy just yet, but they kind of figure it out. They know enough that once Obi-Wan leaves, Jango Fett is like, to his son Boba, he's like, look, we gotta go. That's actually a really good drawing, but that's exactly what he looks like. So he's like, we gotta go, son. So they go out to get to their ship. Obi-Wan's out there as well. They have this big fight in the rain between Obi-Wan and Jango Fett. So Jango Fett and his son managed to get away in their ship, and then original trilogy enjoyers will recognize the ship because the ship that they're flying is the Slave One that Boba Fett flies in the original trilogy. So then we have, Obi-Wan puts a tracker on them and is like following their ship, and they're like, oh, we can't get rid of this guy. So then that's when they introduce this sonic, I forget what they're called, but the sonic like explosives, and he drops it. All the audio in the movie cuts out, and then you have this huge sonic wave. Sonic the Hedgehog. And Sonic the Hedgehog just explodes in space, boom, and just breaks, like, it destroys everything. Seismic charges. It destroys everything. They drop a couple of those, and so, but Obi-Wan won't let up. The chase continues, but eventually they manage to get away, or so they think, and this is when it's revealed that Obi-Wan did plant a tracker on them, so even though they've gotten away, and Jango Fett's like, yeah, we won't be seeing that guy again, they will see that guy again. But meanwhile, while all of this is going on the other side,
Canoodle
you
just
have
gifted a tier 1
Anakin
sub to Shockwave
with Padme,
Manta.
but he's been having these dreams that his mom is in trouble, and they don't feel like normal dreams. They feel like, oh, and that's another minute on the timer. You were almost out of here. But he's been having these dreams, and he feels like something bad is happening to his mom. He's like, this is not a normal dream. I feel something is seriously wrong. And he's like, but my job is to protect you. And Padme's like, well, if I go to Tatooine, you have to go with me as my Jedi protector, blah, blah, blah. They've been on Naboo this whole time. I don't want to get too into it because they've been, like, flirting, but at the same time, Padme's like, no, we can't do this. But also, let's roll around the grass together, one-on-one, and, like, talk about, like... What?
No.
You got 17 seconds. No, you can't talk. But it's very weird because they're like very much like, no, we can't do this, but they both clearly want each other. And it's very strange. And that's another minute on the timer, so you still can't say anything yet. So that's all going on. But then she ends up saying, okay, I'm going to go to Tatooine, and you're of course going to have to come with me, and then you can figure out what's going on with your mom. So they go to Tatooine. They find Owen and or Lars and the Bruce, the people who were so Shmi is basically married this guy. She was sold because she was a slave. She was sold to this guy who then freed her and married her. But then she was captured by Tusken Raiders, and they sent out a crew to try to save her. But they got a bunch of their guys killed. Her now husband lost his leg, so he can't go out there anymore. Anakin's like, all right, I'm gonna go out there and find her myself. He goes to the Tusken camp, finds her like tied up and like on the brink of death. She sees him, and like they have a brief interaction, but she is like literally about to die, and she dies before she can like say I love you to him. And this is the point where he goes from like just a messed up kid to a like messed up kid. Like this is where he snaps, and he goes and just breaks out his lightsaber and just murders this entire village of Tusken Raiders, like every single one, not just the men, but the women and the children. He says this to Padme, but she still wants him after that, which is kind of crazy. So that happens, and then from there, they're like, all right, there's nothing else we can do here. Your mom is dead. That was the only reason we came here. We've got to go back now. But at that point, that's when they get the transmission from Obi-Wan, who has been tracking Jango and Boba Fett to a new planet, Geonosis, which is where they ended up going after they got away. And so Obi-Wan is telling Anakin and Padme that they need to let the Jedi Council know that this stuff is happening. They need to transmit the message that he's tracked Jango Fett down to Kamino, and then they have then followed into Geonosis, and that he has found that this is where they are making the droid army, and we've got 3 more minutes to keep this going. Then they are supposed to they're supposed to go back to Coruscant and handle this and let the Jedi Council handle this, but they are like, or Anakin's like, no, what if we just go and try to save him ourselves? So they go to Geonosis as well, and that results in Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme all being captured because they've walked right into the heart of the separatist like army like base, and so they all get captured, and then they want them to be executed, the separatist leaders. So they put them into this big arena pit, and before they get sent down to the arena pit, Padme it finally confesses her love to Anakin because now she's like, okay, well, they're about to execute us. There's no point in hiding this anymore. Confesses her love to him. They kiss. They go out there. They get chained up for the execution. They send some crazy creatures out there to fuck them up. But all three of them are crafty people. They all find a way to get out of it. And so then Mace Windu shows up, puts his lightsaber up at Jango Fett's neck, and is like, "This party's over." And then a bunch of other Jedi all of a sudden show up out of nowhere in the arena. All of the people in the crowd, or not people, they are the Geonosians, which is like this like moth humanoid looking creature. They all fly away, and then it's just left with and then you've got all of the Jedi there in the arena. They send the droid army in, and the droid army and them all just engage in battle. They all start trying to fuck each other up, and then so then they send Jango Fett down there to start fighting. To get into the fighting as well. Jango Fett ends up, I think he gets trampled by one of the big creatures that was running around the arena, and it fucks up his jetpack. But as he's getting up trying to recover, Mace Windu's like coming at him. Jango Fett's like shooting, and Mace Windu's blocking all the shots. Jango Fett tries to fly away, but because he just got trampled, he doesn't realize that his jetpack's broken. He can't fly away. Mace Windu slices off his arm so he can't shoot anymore, slices off his head, and Jango Fett is dead. And guess who just watched that happen? Boba Fett. He just saw his dad get fucking beheaded. Yeah, so then that's the end of Jango Fett. And that guy, well, yeah. Just gotta, so the Jedi are sustaining heavy casualties in this fight. They get surrounded by the droid army because the droids just keep coming because this is where they are producing them. They have got thousands of these guys. So even though the Jedi are destroying a bunch of them, they just keep coming. And a lot of the Jedi get killed in this fight.
Canoodle
and this
just
is going to keep
gifted a
going
tier
on.
1 sub
And
to Fully
so they are
619.
surrounded, but then Yoda shows up with the clone army that we saw get built, and the clones come to the rescue, get them out of there, and now this ensues the first battle of Geonosis. And now you've got battling happening outside the arena all over the planet between the clones. And these guys, Dooku tries to escape, so now you have Obi-Wan and Anakin get into a little carrier and try to chase him down. They get to another facility where they finally get to him, and so then you have the fight between Count Dooku, who is at this point the leader of the Separatist army, and this was the guy who was Qui-Gon Jinn's master, and then Qui-Gon Jinn was Obi-Wan's master, and now when Obi-Wan got captured, that was him and Dooku's first time actually properly meeting. And now they are now trying to stop him from leaving, and they have to engage in this big lightsaber battle. Obi-Wan gets taken out, tossed aside, and then it's just left with Anakin and Dooku to 1v1, and so with Obi-Wan out of the picture.
I can speak again! I'm so sorry if I scared anybody. Holy shit! Oh. There we go. No more Mika.
Chat, Mika
silence.
hasn't turned the timer off yet. Chat, it's not too late. Mika has not turned the timer feature off yet. It still works if you sub.
We did also hit the Sarah haircut stream. That is true. That is what we hit. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but we are now planning it. Let me take that off the screen. How many subs total? Oh, we were at like 20-something before. So, literally about 100. That's actually fucking crazy. Did you get the hairstyle? No, you did not. No, you did not. I picked my own hairstyle. Good night, Bethel. Thank you for the fucking subs. Holy shit. Is it weird now, like, hearing my voice after, like, 2+ hours? Austin, thank you for entertaining the people. I think they enjoyed that. It's fucking hot in here.
Quickly. So, Count Dooku, in that fight, 1v1's Anakin, cuts off Anakin's arm, and that's why Anakin then has the robot arm. And so then okay, wait. But then at the very end of the movie, then you see like the big legions of all the clone troopers on Geonosis, the carrier ships up ahead, everybody taking off, and you've got Palpatine and a bunch of the other like Jedi and big senators up there, and they end the movie saying, oh, so here it is, the Clone Wars has begun, and then we get into the Clone Wars TV show, but that's how it all starts.
Whoa, that's so crazy. I keep forgetting that I can actually speak now. I can speak. No, because it's so funny that actually, one of the reasons Austin has been going on this big Star Wars info dump is because he just started showing me the Clone Wars for the first time. We have been watching that. Chat, if anybody likes Star Wars time and is new here, this is Austin. He also streams.
I don't know much about Star Wars.
Yeah, nothing at all. Nothing at all. He's not that's into Star Trek. You haven't really watched all that much Star Trek stuff. Oh my goodness. Let's see.
Yeah, I told Mika the 2003 Clone Wars would be a fun one to like get really high and watch one night.
That would be true. That is very true. Is it just me or is it like really warm in here?
It is.
Okay. Is it warmer? And we could like keep the door open so we could like get some air in here. But yeah, no, Austin's been like we're not just watching the Clone Wars like from the beginning. He's choosing specific arcs and like sections and stuff.
Yeah,
Who's in the
like,
purple one? Purple, Carpet, that's you! You already have one! I could try you another one from today, though. I could do that. Let's see, let me grab it. The SilenceAthon started with Stinky. There you are! That's me, yeah! Because you bought me something the other day, and I put it on there. It's a carpet, a legendary carpet. Thank you for the shower curtain. We're getting a shower curtain, by the way. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, there's a Jedi shagging that much, and his name is like Shag-G.
Wait,
like
that's
D.
kind of funny, actually. I feel like I deserve a fucking hit-a-roomski, either of the bong or the Pendrin after that one.
I think there's still some weed in the bong.
There might be. Sarah came by earlier and hit the pen. Shaggy. Yeah, that's good. Oh my goodness. Chad, that was kind of fucking crazy, actually. That was insane. A cheers moment? I could be down for a cheers moment. There is a little bit left.
Oh,
you clicked.
I clicked something.
Yeah, you're good. Chat, any cheersers? Any cheersers? Yeah, there's enough in there. Cheers, chat. To info dumping about Star Wars.
Okay, now Mika can't speak for another minute. So, we've got that fight. Like I said, Anakin gets his arm cut off by Dooku. So, of course, Obi-Wan and Anakin are both down. So, now what they can do, Yoda shows up and Yoda bosses Dooku in that fight. So, Dooku does manage to just start tearing the building down and gives himself just enough time to get in a ship and escape. But that's how we end up with the scenario that, like, that's where we end up at the end of that. But now we've got the clone army. Now we've got all of our pieces in place with Palpatine and his position in the Galactic Senate, and we've got our position with the army, and now obviously the conflict is just going to escalate from here. This is where the Clone Wars begins. Yeah, so Anakin loses his first limb. He loses an arm in that fight against Dooku, and that's where he gets his robot arm. Everything else is going to happen later after at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Joe, it's not all my stickers, because, yeah, rest assured, I got me a bunch of stickers. But, I do put, like, a bunch of the smaller stickers on here. Please ignore how dirty the bong is. But we have Gay Planky, that's Squid sticker. I have a Froggy sticker right here, that's, Hatsune Miku smoking weed. I have a little Froggy right there. Froggy the person. Swamp, don't even look at it, bro. Don't even look at it. But I have a whole thing just of stickers right here. This whole thing is full. I have some other stuff in here too. This whole thing is entirely full of stickers of all kinds and sorts and manners of sticker. I'm so excited to do something with them. That was crazy. I feel like that just like, even though I couldn't speak, my brain just perished.
And now you know everything that happened before the Clone Wars.
It's almost like you already did this whole spiel to me like 2 days ago.
You know, I gave you the cliff notes. This is like actually the full version.
Yeah. A nice little meditation,
I explained all this in I gave her like the 5-minute version of that.
And he had me watch the that like one recap video from that one guy.
Swift is a really good editor on YouTube. I showed her like a little bit of one of his videos, like just like showing a few like key moments from the first 2 movies.
Forgot all about Uppy's cam during that.
It was his Palpatine's Rise to Power video, so that kind of covers a lot of the key moments that you need to know going into the Clone Wars of how we get to that point in the conflict, like politically anyways.
Sticker bomb Stinky Fort? No, we're gonna sticker bomb one of our pieces of furniture.
Yeah, if you've ever seen in my stream, in
carpet,
the other room,
carpet,
we have a dresser that we got it off the street in front of our old apartment back in 2019. It already had a few stickers on it, so since then we've just continued to put more and more stickers on it. During COVID, we started painting on it. Then after COVID, anytime we'd have friends over, we just give them our box of paint markers and invite them to just draw or write whatever they want on there.
Yeah. No, it's good that we have our paint markers over there now.
So now it's just
sorry, I'm not sure how to handle that properly.
Doodles and writing and sketches and stickers and paint and everything.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna incorporate that into like a YouTube video at some point. Maybe even on stream we'll like put stickers on it. I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.